She is the woman who walked out of religious trauma and built a new temple for women. While the world used spirituality to police women's bodies, she broke the spell. She tore down the lie that purity means silence. She rejected any God that required her to disappear. She exposed how shame keeps women obedient, how desire, our most powerful compass, was stolen from us on purpose, and then she gave it back. She taught women that sensuality isn't something you give away, it's something you own, that safety and pleasure are not opposites, they are the foundation of power. She walks straight into the most taboo corners of womanhood and turns the light on. Ladies and ladies, welcome Dr. Kimberly Rose Pendleton. This is Things Your Mother Never Told You. Let's begin. Dr. Kimberly Rose Pendleton. Oh my gosh, we have circled so many arenas together, and it is my really deep and great honor that we are sitting here in this moment now to have what I believe is a very beautiful and yet very urgent conversation.
I completely agree. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy you said yes.
So in the time since I have known you, you have traveled deep and wide and in many ways as a renegade and really a staple, I think, in the industry, speaking about the intersection of patriarchy, religion, and purity culture.
That's right.
And the way that this really deeply affects us as humanity and especially as women. Can you speak to, we're gonna get into your work, but what brought you to this place that says, you know what, I need to start dissecting this for people, for women especially, to understand how plagued they are by purity culture and how much it affects their lives. What happened that made you say, I've got to speak publicly about this?
You know, thank you so much for asking that, and just the way you really have witnessed this journey come to fruition and really take on like a new level of boldness. And I do think, you know, from years and years ago, even when we first met, I feel like I had an awareness that this had impacted me. Like I had had a personal journey through leaving an evangelical religion, having these really strict dogmas, especially around pleasure and sex and women and power and what was allowed. And I knew I had left that behind. But I don't think it really connected for me how global it was and how urgent it was until, frankly, I started seeing it really manifest in our politics on a national level. And to see there has been a concentrated effort to take some of those very same powerful, subjugating ideas and not just implement them in small, like religious communities, but actually like make them our national policy. I started to feel like it's not just a personal story of my own individual kind of pleasure journey, which has been amazing. And I've been so happy to share with women, but it was like, oh no, this is a national, international, global conversation that we actually really need to be having about religion, and not all religion, of course, but the shaming and the basically the ways religion can be contorted and used to actually just subjugate women when, you know, we can get into this more later if we want, but it's like the true roots of it all are so beautiful, and the true roots of Christianity, and even like the way that women factor into early Christianity. We didn't learn any of that at church because that would have really disrupted, you know, the power dynamic. So I think I had an awakening, especially in the last few years, that felt more like this needs to go from individual to collective on a huge scale.
Oh my gosh, 1,000,000%. I'm sitting here as you're talking, imagining in some ways the heartbreak that must have been happening for you as you witnessed this, everything that you've been talking about for years, roll out on national
Oh
television.
my God, exactly.
Around the same time that you become a mother.
Literally with a daughter. I think it was kind of like, okay, you're up, because I had really, to get so honest,
Yes.
I had like a cozy little life. I had like a
Yes.
business that was thriving.
Yes.
I was making great money.
Yes.
I was like living in my little town, having a great time.
Yes.
And I do remember feeling almost a resistance to like, do I really want to be seen? Do I really want to take this on? Do I really want to go up against evangelical Christianity that I had worked so hard to escape from? I'm going to go back with the sword willingly into the arena. And then I became a mom. And I looked to people like you in my life and I thought, it is meant for me. I have to. And I speak that language still. And I know the Bible stories. And
Yes,
I
you
know.
do. You know them so well.
Yes.
You know
And
them
it's
so
like,
well.
you know what? I'm taking that Yale divinity degree. I am taking that PhD in women's studies and religion, these years of knowing inside and out what they are trying to contort. And I'm going to be a voice for this. And then, and I know this is so your experience too, receiving the messages from women who see something and say, oh, I was told, my body was dirty like my whole life. And now I feel a little bit better. It's like, oh, it's worth it. It's worth every uncomfortable moment, any, always from men, to be honest, pushback. It's worth it.
It is worth it. But I think you touched on something really important that I want to circle back to, is that when we as women have a message that is not, let's say at the moment, mainstream,
Yes.
that maybe people are talking about at dinner parties quietly in a corner.
That's right.
But not openly, public facing,
Right.
to say, okay, I'm going to put this out there.
Yes.
I'm not sure how this is going to be received.
Yeah.
I think it's important that we talk about that for a moment, because I, like you, had this moment of like, I'm just choosing very happily to, for me, it was really age naturally and go against what the patriarchy expected.
Yes.
And showcase that you can still feel sensual and beautiful and powerful and actively, outwardly showing signs of aging, even though the messaging is contrary. And so I thought, I've been living this quietly, doing my own thing. I'm okay. And then I felt a sense of something bigger when my clients were continually coming to me and saying, my boss said to me that if I don't start coloring my hair, I'm not going to be able to be on camera anymore in the business. My husband has said to me that he's losing attraction for me, that he would like me to do something with the skin on my neck. And as women were coming to me, I started to feel, Amanda, it's really important you speak more openly about this.
It's bigger than you.
It is, like you said, it is so much bigger than me.
Yes.
And I wonder if similarly to you, I turned, and what has really been my fuel in the moments where I have wanted to silently just do my own thing has been my daughter.
Yes.
Has been my daughter, right? Do you feel like you're doing this more for her than
100%.
ever for yourself?
100%. I had even a little series of letters that I started writing to her when I was pregnant, because it was as Project 2025 was beginning to be spoken about and rolled out, and I am pregnant with this baby girl, thinking like, in the darker moments, what am I bringing you into? And then in the empowered moments, like I know we both feel like, I'm going to make this better for you, and you are going to come join in, the fight. And we are the ripple effect. I know for me, it's been so powerful to look to other women and see an example of what else is possible. I even think about like my little baby self leaving that strict religious world, thinking I've been taught, that I am dangerous, that my desire is dangerous, that pleasure is sinful, that anything really that feels good is bad, which you can just imagine like how dangerous that is to teach women. If it feels bad, it's probably good. If it feels good, it's probably bad. I mean, it's like, this is like setting the stage for
100%.
rape culture.
Yes.
And so I'm like, taking these baby steps away from this world, I was like least likely to be having this conversation in 2 decades. You know what I mean? It's like I couldn't even have said pleasure out loud. Like I remember actually there was a smoothie at Jamba Juice called Peach Pleasure, and I was like too nervous to order it as a teenager. So it's like and now it's like you're an intimacy coach. I mean, this is like comical.
You get paid to talk about pleasure.
This is like when you know God has this sense of humor. Like, okay, this is your role in the revolution.
Yes.
But I was taking these little steps and looking to other women as, an example was the thing that gave me hope, because it was like, well, I don't know. I mean, she seems like she's figuring this out. I even saw, it's so funny what stands out to you in these moments.
Yes.
But I remember I was walking home and I just had this like huge confrontation with my Bible study, and I had been told I'm going to hell. I was like kicked out of Bible study.
Oh.
And it was so dramatic. Women on women, of course. That was like where the policing like was truly happening. And I was walking by this French restaurant in Washington, D.C., and I saw this woman sitting alone having a glass of champagne. And she was eating pate and just looking she was just having a great time. And I couldn't have said this in the moment. I didn't know what I was really seeing, but she was in her own pleasure. An older woman, I imagine French, who knows? But just enjoying herself. And it's so funny. I've never told this story before, but it's so funny. It clicked something for me of like, okay, you may have just left your community. I didn't know yet I would soon have much better community with women. But I was like, look, here's proof you could be alone and you could be okay. Look at her.
Yes.
And she is it felt like future self, like a permission slip, a pleasure permission slip. And there was something about a moment of indulgence that would not have been okay with the church. Just gonna go like have champagne and pate by yourself. Like, what kind of selfish woman does that?
And isn't this interesting? Because this is one of the biggest things I have clients ask me. Literally, they ask me, and this is women that are new to my work when we're just beginning the journey. They ask me, Dr. Amanda, where is the line of too much self-love before it becomes self-obsession? Where is the line of too much self-pleasure before it comes indulgence? And that question men ask all the time. Right. I'm pretty certain the fact you're even asking, you will never fall into the category of just forgetting all of the humans in your life.
Oh gosh. And them. Oh, my children. Oh, I forgot all about them.
It's this fear that if you start feeling joy or love for self or pleasure, that somehow you're going to toss your whole life aside, and it's an either or. You have to pick one camp or the other.
Yeah.
And I was raised in a home where it was like, honestly, this belief, it was martyrdom.
Yes.
The more that you did on behalf of others and the suffering that went with it, you really were getting closer to that trophy.
Right.
And you were going to get that medal and be such a proud wearer of it.
Yes.
And I remember thinking, and even still, I think this is so interesting because as a woman who was raised by a mom who was, because of circumstances, found herself in this divorce situation when I was 10 years old. She's then working multiple jobs to pay the bills. Not what she wanted. She wanted to be the traditional at-home wife, which she was later again in her life and still remains that. It is so fascinating as she's watched my liberation and me claiming my voice and my power. It has been interesting how there's been this sneaky system to want to bring me back.
Interesting.
So with all that I've had and all that I've accomplished, there was this moment where she'd come over to visit. This was maybe 2 years ago, and it was the week before Halloween. I mean, women's lives are just changing rapidly. I'm crying every day at the beauty of this work. It's unbelievable, these opportunities that are coming my way. And I open the door, and my mom says to me, I can't believe you didn't put any pumpkins out for Halloween. I was like, no, my kids had all moved out of the house at that point. We hosted a haunted house for 13 years.
You did
as a
your
community
time.
fundraiser for years. And it would take us 6 weeks to build it. The whole town would
my
come. We had food trucks.
gosh.
Halloween was everything. But this one time when there was a pivot to something different, and I couldn't somehow get over feeling of all of this other beautiful stuff that was happening in my professional life.
Right.
What stuck with me for weeks after was like, oh my gosh, I'm not a good woman.
Right.
I've lost my sense of celebration and holidays, and my husband probably doesn't even find it like fun and cozy here anymore because I did forget about getting pumpkins. But it's just crazy how it seems like no matter what we do, there's always another woman to remind us, but you missed in this department.
God, it's so, what I love about that story is like how crazy it sounds. So it's like perfect because it's like, oh my God, here you are literally undoing, like the true haunted house of like culture.
Oh, I love that you said that.
And then it's like, where are the pumpkins? I mean, it's just, I'm going to remember this anytime where I'm like, oh no, but I'm not doing the perfect Pinterest toddler activity for Rosie. And it's like, right. Instead, we're writing books and speaking on stages that are going to actually liberate women.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which brings me to something I'm so interested to hear from you about.
Yes.
Knowing your intersection of all of this work. What do you believe is happening with this huge rise of tradwife culture?
Oh my God. I am so glad you brought this up. And I think it's really interesting. So to come back to part of my story that I actually don't talk about that much either, but I think is important, I chose evangelicalism. And most of my clients who work with me don't. They're born into, and it's not always Christianity, but some kind of more repressive religion. But I grew up going to like a really friendly, liberal Methodist church. And even I think sometimes my parents are like, what happened here? Like, how did you find your way here? But I think there's a clue around the tradwife thing in my own journey. It's just like a working theory, but I'd be so interested to hear what you think about it because I went to college at a pretty big party school. I started at UC Santa Barbara and I was on that like younger side. So I was maybe like 17 and like showed up at this like wild, it was like ranked by Playboy or something as like the best school to go to. So, and I was me already. So I like did not really fit in and was a little bit just like overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And, in a much more serious tone, but also I know we know that this is the reality. I think within the first semester I was in school, I knew 5 different women who had been raped. And it was insane. And one was one of my roommates. And it was to varying degrees, but all versions of either like date rape or something had been put in someone's drink at a party. One of my, not my actual roommate, but a dorm mate, woke up with no clothes on in Isla Vista with no memory of what had happened. And I didn't put the pieces together right away. But through walking, especially with my closest friend who had had it happen to her, and we had gone to a professor who had advised us not to press charges. Because she said, I've seen it. They don't do anything
female
with it.
Professor.
My women's studies teacher. I mean, it's just devastating. And when I became a professor later, I thought about that all the time because it really is just, but it was, we listened. So we buried it. And she and I both started going to a mega church that was down the street. And I could not have told you at all that it was connected. They just were hosting us and invited us. But I look back now and think those girls were looking for some safety.
Absolutely.
They were looking for some meaning. I think the lure of will protect you.
Yes.
Women's sexuality is actually sacred. We should guard it. I mean, I now have so much compassion for that like little version of me. She was wrong, but she thought that that might be like a safer place. And sometimes I look at both the trad wife culture and even kind of another thing I'm seeing, which feels similar, which is like within new age culture, like
A lot.
it's crazy.
It's
This like
dangerous.
it's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
This turn toward this version of, in particular, Christianity that is so strict, so polarizing. Women should be submissive, really, really deepening into, I've even seen influencers and business women say things like, maybe women shouldn't vote. Maybe the husband should vote for the family. I mean, this is stuff I like fought my way out of from that
Yes.
space. And I'm watching my sometimes colleagues, sometimes peers, and then certainly like influencers online almost like walk in willingly. And I have to wonder, are they looking for safety, but in so the wrong places?
As you're speaking, I love that you're bringing this up. As you're speaking, it's making me wonder if, this whole idea of the women have become, and for many reasons, so masculine because they have felt the need to take care of themselves financially, or this person that they were with dropped the ball and now they're like, oh my gosh, I have to
Right.
shoulder parenting and paying the bills.
Right.
He walked out. I have so many women come to me. They're so fatigued.
Yes.
They are so fatigued. And women saying, I just want one place to be able to surrender. One place. And I wonder if when you play to the tune of, well, maybe the man should just, if what it actually is underneath is a almost like a cry for surrendering.
I absolutely think
A
that that's
space of
right.
like, you take that load.
Yes,
I can't bear
totally.
one more thing, one more decision. Because I don't think that these women have necessarily felt or accessed this intersection of power and pleasure.
Oh my gosh, that is unlocking something for me. Like, I think we're putting a puzzle together that has been really confounding because, I mean, even on just the surface, sometimes I would think, like, the irony. You're, as a trad wife, actually the CEO of a very successful personal brand, just
Yes.
like me.
Yes.
And I can almost think like, oh, like Phyllis Schlafly or like Tammy Faye Baker, like just these
Yes.
historical kind of like questions that I'd had in like the religious history department about women who would travel, have careers, be speaking on stages, but the message was that other women should stay home.
Well, we're seeing this everywhere right
We're
now.
seeing it everywhere.
With the latest death of
Yes.
this person who I think it's better I don't name right now.
100%.
But even with his wife, right? It's like
100%.
all the degrees that she has, all the businesses she
Right.
runs and is a part of, and yet the message is women should be in the home and they
Right.
should be the central focus
Right.
for the children and the raising of children. And
Right.
the messaging, I think, can start to be like a real big mind fuck.
I agree. And at first, to be so honest, I was like, what is going on here? Is it just that people like, this was like an accidental slip from like conversations around like submission and domination? And it's like, did you just mean to like go play with that and then you took it too far and now you like don't want a bank account anymore? But I think the real
Maybe you
truth,
could play that out in the bedroom with some great role playing.
Exactly. Like, can you just like buy some handcuffs, but like I can still vote? I feel like that should be like there's another option. But I do think that you're exactly right that it's an impoverished set of choices. And if you only think either I'm in my masculine, I'm doing everything, it's all on me, or okay, maybe I give up my power, but I get to surrender. And what you and I are really wanting to make sure people know is that there is another option. There's a third way where you can be experimenting with any dynamics you want, and you can have an amazing husband if you want, who can take over when you want to surrender, but not because you don't have power.
Right.
Like, he can plan a date night for me because he loves me. But I'm running this incredible business. It's not that I can't do that.
That's right. It is not an either or. You're exactly right. And that dynamic has been interesting, I will say, as I have claimed more literal just time in my day where I can't be spoken for in my personal life because I'm committed to business, or the level of responsibility, or a vacation that had to be reimagined because of an experience that I had said yes to and felt important for my career. As these things happen and we up the ante and the dynamics have to be reimagined in our marriage and our relationship of like, oh, wait a minute. So, and still being a woman, I love having all of this power, and yet I'm still a woman who wants to have this place to surrender into, and having to literally have that conversation because there was almost a misunderstanding, an unspoken assumption that, wow, as she's risen into all of this, she probably doesn't need me as much, and or there's been conversation of I almost feel like I'm a bother to you now.
When it's really the opposite.
And we had this conversation last night. I'm like, no, actually,
I need you even more.
Yes.
And it's in a different way, maybe, than you've ever seen, because we're creating an entirely new paradigm.
Yes.
But that's I resonate so deeply. And I think this is something you and I have always really had in common and connected over, because and of course, I think we both support all expressions of women and power, but our version has always been like, we're still like kind of girly girls
very much
have this, romance and delight and like, yes, whisk me away to Paris. And also I'm going to write a best-selling book that changes the world. And like, there is no conflict here. The more I have that pleasure, the more I can deepen in my power. And then it sets our men free too, to see that.
Okay, that piece is really important because another big question that women always ask me is, and I just ran a VIP the other day where she said to me, as she's building her own business, she said, I'm really curious to hear from you, because she's been in a marriage for a long time, a beautiful marriage. And I think a lot of women experience this. There's a fear that as I step more into my power, I'm going to have to sacrifice my marriage, and this is no longer going to be as good as it is now. It's probably going to crumble because I want to step into this. And it's this balance, again, of like, I have to choose one or the other. He's only ever known me in this form or fashion. What if he isn't able, and we aren't able to navigate this new change in my identity? And we spoke very frankly and openly about it, to the point that, and I was sharing this with my husband recently, and we've talked about this, the hope is never that it crumbles or fades.
Yeah.
The hope is that you constantly, it's all about a reimagining, a renegotiation together.
I love that.
But if for some reason you stepping into the most actualized version of yourself causes him to step outside and drift away, then that was always going to hold you back on some level. Like he was actually not your person any longer. Maybe he was to that point.
Yeah.
So you have a choice at this juncture. You get to decide, do I want to betray myself to keep this safe? Or do I want to step into myself fully and believe that this is possible? And if for some reason it's not, and he betrays the marriage, then that was what was meant to happen.
And that's his decision.
It is.
As you are being more and more fully you, the right people are only going to be more magnetized to that.
Yes.
In fact, I feel like the experience when I've seen this happen with friends or clients or even with my own partner, it's like, oh, I knew that was in there. Yes. And that's the mirroring, I feel like, the true people who are meant to be journeying with us experience. It's like, oh, there she is.
Yes. It's so interesting because my husband will always say, I told this story, and I think I shared this with you a few years ago. I told this story in my mind that he or my kids or my family outside of, extended family wouldn't be able to like handle my bigness or my power. It'd be too much for them. And for some people it was, but not for my husband or my children. And he said all the time, as it's grown bigger and bigger, he said, babe, do you remember what I said when we first met? Like, I saw something so huge for you. I saw stages. I saw you sharing because your perspective of humanity was so different than anything I'd ever heard before. And that was exactly what he reflected back. He's like, I'm
knew.
the least, he's like, I'm the least surprised.
I'm the least surprised.
He's like, yeah, of course. Right? And so that is like,
to my eyes.
it's so beautiful.
Yes.
And for
what a
our daughters to
testament.
get to see that. Like
Yes.
Rosie gets to grow up watching
Yes.
her dad
Yes.
be so in awe of her mom and vice
Right.
versa in
Right.
both directions.
100%.
Oh,
It's so true. And what a gift to every woman listening that it doesn't require giving up the things that matter the most to us. It's just going to set everything free.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such
I think
a
sometimes
huge
there's a belief
permission.
that women who speak about the things that we speak out about don't like men.
I think that's right.
And
yeah.
I've had people say to me, well, you don't like men. I'm like, I've raised 3 unbelievable divine masculine.
Right.
I'm married to one. I
Right.
have one who works the camera here.
Right.
I have a brother who is, I know so many men who are, I just hosted a men's group a couple of weeks ago online, men from all around the world joining.
Incredible.
There are so many
There's so many.
beautiful divine masculine men. I adore them. I am just in a space where I'm no longer willing to play to a system that tells women she has to dim her light
That's it.
to be chosen or loved.
That's it.
I'm here to say we get to all shine super bright.
Well, I think what you're speaking to that is so helpful to remember is that it's a liberation for everyone. And that the structure of that really oppressive, I even think back to the purity culture, really strict, men in charge, women. I mean, I got in trouble in college for inviting a woman to come speak to our youth group because women couldn't be leading from the front. It's like insane now. I'm sure they'd be like, what is this?
Oh my
Where
God.
are you now? 2 women speaking, like that's even worse. But I mean, it's just, you think about that really strict paradigm and the men were suffering too.
Yes.
It was different and still the pressure, that non-ability to be in their own receiving. They had to be pretending that they knew it all.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like, this actually isn't working for anyone.
It's not.
And freedom for the women will mean freedom for the men too.
And let's talk about not just, but very, I think, poignantly in the bedroom.
Yes.
When a woman feels free
Yes.
and has permission for pleasure
Yes.
and to enjoy her body and to break up with any
Yes.
storyline of shame, imagine the freedom.
Uh-huh.
I'm sure we're both living that. The
Yes.
freedom that gets to happen
For
in...
everyone.
Oh my gosh.
No, that is such, I'm glad you brought this up. Let's go there.
Yes.
Because I think one of the biggest, in some ways, awakenings that I had was like, wait a minute. It turns out if I've been believing for a decade that pleasure is wrong, sex is bad, don't do it at all costs,
Don't
avoid
enjoy
this,
it. If you do
don't
it,
want
don't.
it, don't think about it because you're not even supposed to have thoughts that are
Yes.
like,
Yes.
it was like, oh, it turns out if that's your programming, your body responds. And I, like so many women that I met later would find out, had all of these symptoms and this pain. And I was so shut down and I had no idea why. I thought, what's wrong with me?
Yes.
Is there something I need to go get fixed? And it was like, no, this is shame calcifying.
Yes.
Of course you can't open up. And of course everything's going to be so painful. You were told and told yourself all desire is bad for
Yes.
years and years. And it doesn't just turn off.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's like in our
The
cells.
body was listening.
That's right. And we often inherit it from a system and a culture that's been sending this message for a very long time.
Yes.
So it's not like we can have the revelation of that information, like, oh, maybe desire and pleasure are safe and are okay. And then it just makes the switch. It is a really deep journey into that work. And that's where your work comes in so beautifully, is helping to hold the hand and guide women because you've lived it firsthand.
Yes.
That's what I love so much about your work, is you're not teaching from a place of, oh, well, I have this theory, I have this idea of what this should look like. You have lived it and walked the path, and also so deeply integrated into your own daily life.
Yes.
Which I think misses often in true leadership. When we pull back the curtain, we've got a lot of Wizard of Oz behavior happening.
It's so true. It's so,
dangerous.
and whether I completely agree with that, whether it's on purpose or they're letting it slip, I think there is a lot of if you could walk behind the scenes, you would see a complete lack of embodiment.
Yeah.
And it means they're operating from so much fear.
Yes.
They're going to be found out.
Yes, because you can't really teach women the depths of what you're talking about, because the layers and layers that they have to sift through, unless you've really been in there. Because we can understand it from a theory perspective all day long.
Right.
But I am always interested in leading in places that I've actually, and I know this is just stylistically, a lot of people feel differently, but I feel my integrity is such that I want to lead in places that I can really speak to,
100%.
also on a personal level.
Yes.
And I think that's why the work becomes so rich that I do with my
100%.
clients.
No, to know someone has been there.
Yeah.
I think it's huge. And I think back to the marriage piece, that's such a great example, because it's oh, come sit with somebody who's let this unfold over decades, someone who's parented children, who has really been in it. I feel similarly with leaving my own religion kind of background. It's anyone could probably understand on a cognitive level, but when you have been through it, there's a degree of safety and trust where I think people just know, even if the details are different, you understand. And I'm not going to be able to shock you with anything I say because you've been there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so true. When we think about, when you in particular think about the work that you're doing right now in the world and the level that you're doing it, talk to me about the days where it feels like, what is even the point? I don't know if you ever feel like this, but there's a random day, I will say, every 6 weeks. What I'd say to my best friend is, we'll check in on each other, and I say, I feel like I'm hiking Mount Everest in flip-flops and a bikini. And I'm realizing, I think I need more gear.
I think I need. Should I have maybe not done this alone?
Yes. Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
And so as this is happening, in those moments, what I have allowed to be part of, there's many things, but one of the big things for me that has been my true north over and over again, on the days where I'm like, oh my gosh, whoa, this is a lot. It's my daughter.
Yeah.
And it is, for me, it is about legacy.
Yeah.
Creating and leaving a legacy that, even if it's barely makes a 1% difference in all of it, I would rather know I woke up every day and tried to be part of the solution
100%.
than to have been complicit to the brokenness of it all in my silence.
Yes, absolutely.
So how are you managing through all of that? And where's the legacy piece for you?
Yeah, I love thinking about this. And I think there's something so powerful about those moments where it's even if I were to feel like it's not worth it or it's not justified to take all of this time and effort to do this work just for me, which of course, most days I think, no, it is, even just for that.
Yes,
but it's yes, there is this bigger picture when I think about Rosie. And she's only 14 months old. And it's oh my God, precious. I would love to create a world where you don't even really understand Uncover because it's not even relevant.
Wouldn't that be the dream?
Wouldn't that be amazing to work myself so fully out of a job that generation is what is
what are you talking about?
purity culture? Why would I ever be ashamed of my body? Why would I ever be ashamed of sex? I don't even understand. And so I have a little bit of this fantasy of I want to just erase it for her. And the realistic kind of feeling of like, even if that's more the pipe dream in the day to day, her to know no matter what messaging she sees or receives, because I think this is the other thing about purity culture. It sneaks in, it sneaks in all kinds of other places too. I'll talk to clients who are like, I didn't even like grow up in this stuff, but I felt guilty when I slept with someone on the first date. I felt nervous to be called a slut. I felt like I can't wear that or I won't be taken seriously. And it's like, yeah, these are the same.
This is how it permeates
It's everywhere.
everywhere.
Abstinence only education getting federal funding. It's like there really is, it's deep in us.
Yes. And I even see, a conversation that has come up a lot in my work with women is I'm worried about the fact we talk a lot when we have our month where we really are talking about pleasure on the 6-month journey of this mastermind. There's one month in particular that is all about the depths of pleasure. And for most women in their 30s, 40s, 50s, it is a first pass at this conversation. And it's fascinating.
Yeah.
But there is a consensus because one woman seems to name this every round of the mastermind. And then other women are like, I'm so happy you gave voice to that. I was in the shadows with that. I was so terrified to claim it. And these are women around the world. And it is this. When I have fantasy sometimes, it is a fantasy that I'm being dominated.
Right.
What is that all about?
Right.
Because it feels like to be this really strong and powerful woman,
Yes.
I don't know if I really want to. And then I have shame about having the fantasy. And it's so layered and so complex.
Oh my God.
And I often think it's, the surface answer for me was often in my head as I thought about it for the knee-jerk reaction was, oh, that's often about like you're doing so much and you're overwhelmed and sometimes you don't even want to have to think and you want to be able to just like be surrendered in this moment. But I think as we unpack it even deeper and deeper, it's like, I don't think women feel that they can give themselves permission to want something so so carnal, so primal, so alive, unless they feel like someone took it from them or forced them into it. So then they can say, well, this happened to me, as opposed to, I wanted sex wild and deep and with total debauchery, and I wanted to say what I wanted, and I wanted to be loud and messy, and there's such a fear to lose control. There's such a fear to name, I really, really want that. So I think there's this sneaky, like you're talking about these sneaky invaders.
Yes.
I think that's yet another way on a very deep subconscious level that women are able to say they can get to a fantasy through that window.
100%.
But it's like, well, because someone kind of came and dominated it.
Right.
But not because I wanted it.
Right. No, I love that we're talking about this, and I've seen exactly the same thing. And I have often thought when you've especially internalized it's wrong, there's almost like an escape hatch if it's a fantasy of force, when really the moment of like naming that, and especially if then, in like a loving, safe partnership, you get to explore that. What I love about what happens is that really you are exactly in control because you asked for it. Even if you asked to lose control, I think something happens in the alchemy of that where you're taking this programming that the only way for this to be kind of even allowed in our culture is non-consensual, which is just already so problematic. But then you're kind of like remastering it through the process of a woman asking for what she wants and then getting to receive it, and honestly getting to like call the shots, but from like underneath. I think it's really powerful.
Oh my gosh, so much. And I have watched that process happen for some of these women.
Yeah.
Where they've then turned and alchemized it and been like, oh my gosh, this is so incredible. But I do think we are often so tentative to go to those places and have those conversations at this level and really unpack it and explore all the dynamics that are interlaced throughout it.
100%. And the irony I've often find is that it's like, the really good partners are typically like, oh, like, I don't know if I should do that. Like,
Yes.
is that really like okay? And so there
That
has
is
to
a
almost
very
be
much a
some
reality.
buy-in, maybe play this episode for them so that they understand like, oh, it's part of like a much bigger, very sexy alchemical process because their programming hopefully is like, no, don't do that.
Yes, and
Yes.
I've had that in my real life. It's
Yes.
like, but I have so much respect for you. I don't know, like to
Right,
try. So that's
right,
like for
right,
some men, it's like for these
right.
really good men, it's like, wait,
Yes.
what do you mean?
Totally.
Is that okay?
You know what? It comes back to what you were saying about the women who are like, I don't want to cross over into being too selfish. And it's like, well, just the fact that
Yes.
you are worried about that, I'm less worried about it. And I think that's what the
Yes.
men, it's like just the men who are like, I would never want to
Yes.
cause any harm. And it's like, just the fact that you care about that, I'm like no longer that concerned that you would.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's such a beautiful full circle from like,
Totally.
I love thinking of it that way. That is so beautiful. So as we start to wind down, what for women who are listening, who are so contracted around, they can hear this conversation and they're
Yeah.
nodding and they're like, yes, 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 yes. Oh, but personally, I feel a million miles away. I mean, because I have a lot of women in my circle of clients who suffer from anywhere from endometriosis to vulvodynia to not having yet experienced an orgasm, ranges of
Yes.
fear around their
Yes.
body, women who've never even looked at any aspect of their bodies, women who cringe every time I use certain language.
Yeah.
What would you say to her? She's sitting there
First,
like
I'm
hating her
just
body.
come, let us hug you. Yes, I'm so tender thinking about being in that spot. I remember being in that spot. I remember just being curious and maybe even wanting the possibility that what we are offering could be for me, but thinking like, oh, that's for them, probably. And I would just say, can we crack open, the door just a little bit and maybe even starting so small, but can pleasure, which really is the antidote to purity culture, to patriarchy, to those powers of domination. A woman in her pleasure is really hard to control.
Very.
A woman in her pleasure is going to disrupt things. And so the more you can just bring in even a little bit, the roses, the outfit, the moment you slow down, the honest conversation, I really think claiming those small things starts to add up to something really, really big. And getting in the habit of trusting our own desire, it feels like you're building a muscle, right?
Yes.
It's like, what do I want here? Okay, maybe I could follow those breadcrumbs bit by bit until I'm finding myself in a room like magnetic or in a conversation like this, thinking, okay, I've actually let my desire lead me all the way. What does she have to say?
Oh my gosh, I love this so much because at that path, like when you're standing there at the precipice of now I've invited a little bit of pleasure, I've thought out a little bit, I'm safe, it's all okay. A little bit more pleasure. And then you're exactly right, the pathway to desire opens. And then when she steps into, I've really had this desire to write this book. I really had this desire to open this. I have a client who converted after years and years of being in real estate and a phenomenally successful career. She was like, I have this quiet whisper that all I want to do is take an old Ford Chevy truck and convert it into like a flower truck that drives to farmers markets in San Diego and sells flowers out of the back of it. It's like, but that doesn't make sense. That's delusional.
Who
That's
can
so
do
stupid.
that?
Look how much money I make in this other industry, even though I'm not happy. Right? But as she invited more pleasure and more pleasure and more pleasure and released a lot of the religious stuff and the shame, she arrived at this place and it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know life could feel this good. I didn't even know I could have this much fun
Oh my God.
playing and earning money in a completely different dimension than and being in her 60s, like it's
Yeah.
never too late. And then what happens for her adult children and her grandchildren as they watch this new version of her blossom, it
Mm.
serves what I always say to women is, I promise you that your pleasure that leads to your desires, that leads to your most full blossomed self, serves the people in your life so beautifully because you are
Yes.
effervescing and
Yes.
overflowing into them. It is not it does not cause harm.
That's exactly right. And I will say too, I mean, to be a little bit funny about it, but it also is true, that martyr other option, that is not doing anyone any favors. I mean, we've all been around that attitude,
Oh.
and it's like bitter, brittle,
Yes.
bitchy, like
Yes.
I'm overgiving and I'm so unhappy. It's like, I'm sorry, if you think that is the gift to your family, like
Right.
you are totally deluded. It's the mother, the wife, the woman, the example in her pleasure that gives everybody that exhale.
Yes.
They want to be around that.
Yes, it feels less burdensome and heavy. And
Yes.
then you also don't feel like, I always think that growing up with some of those women, I always felt
Yeah.
a sense of guilt for existing,
Yes.
for being that, oh gosh, it's
Right.
like,
And
this
it's
is
like
a lot.
the story is the good one. I mean, that feels terrible to be around.
Right,
And the
exactly.
storyline of like, I'm doing it all for them, it's like, oh, well, stop. Because what you are gifting to be more serious about it really is, yeah, a sense of being a burden, a sense of guilt. It's like, oh, I wish you had just said no and done what you wanted.
Yes. And I've had to learn that in some instances more recently as I become more full in my life,
Yeah.
having to say no to certain friends, to certain family
Yeah.
members. And because I felt like it was actually the most loving thing I could do, because I could say yes, but I would secretly on some level feel overwhelmed,
Yes.
resentful, and that's not
Yes.
fair to that person.
Right.
For me to say yes out of
Right.
obligation, I think the truest form of love and care for our people is to honor our sacred yes or our sacred no.
Yes.
And
I
as women,
completely
that is
agree.
a big piece of work for us to do.
It is.
It's a big
It
piece of
is.
work.
But we can do it together.
We can. And I'm so thankful you are doing it, because you are, for anyone who is looking to work with someone when it comes to pleasure and intimacy in a way that I don't think you can read about necessarily, I don't think you can access in traditional mainstream culture. I've never witnessed a woman be so integrated and embodied when it comes to pleasure. Sometimes if it was as simple as, and it's for some people going to sound like, well, that's not so simple, but as simple as lighting a candle,
Yeah.
having that beautiful cup of coffee by a fireplace
Yeah.
for 30 minutes
Right.
before you started serving or doing what you had to attend to. It gets to be that beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's like, the ceremony's like in here.
Oh, I love that. Absolutely. I feel so seen as always and just so grateful. I think our friendship, our work together, all the conversations you have in here, it's just such a testament to when we try to do it alone, the work feels so heavy. But when we remember we are doing it together, and there's my part and your part and her part and your part, and it's like,
Yes.
oh, now it doesn't feel so heavy. It feels like we can do this. We can do this together.
It does. It's so rich that way. Yes.
is.
Thank you so much for being here and taking the time. I really enjoyed it.